Hello everyone, my name's Austin Erickson and I'll be presenting this paper today about dichoptic visual attention cues in augmented reality. So in general, attention cues can be used to either attract or direct the attention of an observer to specific regions of their environment or specific regions of their display. For AR attention cues, this could involve physical points of interest, perhaps indicating danger or objects of interest to the user's context. Otherwise, it could be used to attract the attention of the user to virtual imagery or information being shown on the display, similar to how notifications work on our phones. In order to be effective, attention cues should stand out relative to their surroundings. However, for most AR applications, we typically don't know what the user's surroundings are going to look like ahead of time. So the effectiveness of any particular cue design will vary depending on the user's environment. For this reason, we look into dichoptic cues, which may be less reliant on the appearance of the user's environment. Dichoptic cues are cues that appear differently between the observer's eyes. This creates binocular rivalry, which in the past has been shown to be effective at attracting the attention of the observer. As an example, a box being presented as a dichoptic cue may appear to be a different color between each of the observer's eyes. In this example, their left eye sees the box to be white, while their right eye observes the box to be red. When the observer fuses these images together, it creates binocular rivalry, and the user's perception of the box will tend to alternate between being red and white over time. In this work, we present a study that investigates the effectiveness of similar color-based dichoptic cues for the specific case of optical see-through AR. Our study has several independent variables that will be explained in detail. The first is the type of visual cue shown to the participants. The second is the intensity level at which the cue is shown. The third is the background poster for which the virtual task is performed in front of, and participants observed all of these cues on the Microsoft HoloLens 2. Let's first take a look at the cue types and cue intensity levels found in the study. A color can be thought of as a 3D point in space, and each of the attention cues tested in the study consist of two colors, a color shown to the left eye and a color shown to the right eye. We used the HSV, or hue saturation value, color space to design the appearance of the cues in this study. The three types of cues used in the study are based on the three dimensions of this color space: hue, saturation, and value. The first is hue, which is a measure of the radial angle of the color within the color space, where primary red is at 0 and 360 degrees. The second is saturation, which measures the radial length of the color within the color space, where a value of 0 means the color is grayscale and lays in the center vertical of the cylinder, while a value of 1 means the color is on the outermost surface of the cylinder. The third is value, the height of the color within the color space, where a value of 1 means the color is on the top surface and a value of 0 means the color is on the bottom surface. These particular cues are interesting when shown on optical see-through AR displays, since a decrease in value will make the cue appear more transparent on the AR display. To change the intensity level of the different cues, we varied the hue shown between the user's left and right eyes such that it would be different by an angle of 60, 120, or 180 degrees. To change the intensity of the saturation-based cues, we varied the saturation between the color shown to the user's left and right eyes such that it would be different by 33, 66, or 100% the length of the radius of the color space. Similarly, the intensity level for the value-based cues was varied such that it would be different by 33, 66, or 100% the height of the color space. Our third independent variable was the physical background. We used two different background posters. One was uniform gray, and the other was non-uniform, consisting of randomly generated pixel noise. Let's take a look at the study procedure. Participants were first shown a scene that looks like what you see here. A UI instructed participants to press space when they were ready to begin the trial. After pressing space, Users fixated on a target for 2 seconds. After the 2 seconds, a grid of objects would appear on the display for just 250 milliseconds. For half of the trials in the study, the visual cue would appear in a randomly selected position within this grid, while for the remaining half of trials, all of the grid objects were identical and no cue was present. Following this, the grid would disappear, and the user is asked to press the Y button if they notice that a visual cue was present within the distractor objects. Otherwise, they press N to indicate no, and trials repeat. I'll highlight just a few key results of the paper. Both cue type and cue intensity were found to have significant effects on the false negative rate of participants, where a cue was shown, but participants did not recognize it. Participants were significantly more accurate when identifying the presence of hue-based cues, shown in green at the bottom, compared to saturation and value-based cues, shown in red and blue respectively. Participants were also significantly more accurate when identifying cues of higher intensity levels, as visualized by the decrease in false negative rate as we move from left to right in the figure. Further analysis revealed that the cue type and cue intensity variables could be combined when described in terms of a distance between the two colors comprising of the cue, the color shown to the left eye and the color shown to the user's right eye. The distance can be used to describe the effectiveness of the dichoptic cue, where larger distances result in salient and more effective cues. This figure shows the user's false negative rate as a function of color space distance between the two colors of the cue. The particular plot only shows the distances for the hue-based cues. As you can see, false negative rate decreases as the color space distance increases. When the distances for the saturation-based cues are superimposed in red here, we can see that the plots are very close together. This indicates that the color space distance may be a better descriptor of the cues than the cue types and intensity levels we introduced previously. Surprisingly, participants were significantly more accurate when identifying cues shown against the non-uniform background, the blue plots in the figure, compared to the uniform gray poster, the green plots in the figure. The literature on saliency of visual cues previously established that cue saliency is increased when multiple features differ between the cue and distractor objects. The non-uniform background introduces variation in both luminance and chromaticity of the cue and distractor objects. This could partially explain the reason for the increase in salience for this background poster. This particular result is promising since many environments are dynamic and non-uniform, which seems to increase the effectiveness of the dichoptic attention cues. An analysis of the hue of the distractor objects in the grid revealed that participants tended to perform worse when the distractor objects were green-hued. This particular result indicates that users may have difficulty recognizing the presence of dichoptic attention cues in green-hued environments. This is problematic since many outdoor environments consist primarily of green hues. For these types of environments, different variations of attention cues may be needed to remain effective. Thank you all for your attention. Please feel free to email me with any questions you may have.